How do you clean a really dirty oven? Well, there's lots of options available. I've got a really dirty oven that needs cleaning, so I've put them all to the test and I'm going to show you how we got on. Stick around. If you're new here, I post regular content on DIY and renovation tips, as well as lots of home hacks and helpful home advice. So I'd love to have you as a subscriber. Please do hit that subscribe button and don't forget to press the bell notification as well, so you get notified when there's a new video. So option number one is to try out some baking soda. Now, some corners of the internet will have you believe that this is a really simple, easy and cheap way to get your oven clean. So we thought, hey, why not? Let's give it a go. Now, there's various ways that you can do this, but basically you just want to mix up a paste. It's about 4 parts baking soda to 1 part some kind of liquid. So you could use water, you could use washing up liquid, or you could use dish soap. I think that's what they call it in America. Or you could even use vinegar. But what you want is something that's going to adhere to that dirt and that grease so that you can leave it on there for say half an hour and it can start to break it down. Then when you go to scrub it, either using a scourer, best to use a non-scratch scourer just to be on the safe side, or even one of the non-scratch scrapers, which are a really good tool for your oven in general. Hopefully that baking soda has already started to do the job of breaking down the grease. So we went ahead with this method on our really dirty oven, but unfortunately, other than making some kind of dirty baking soda, it barely really touched the sides and we didn't see a lot of progress at all. So it was a little bit disheartening, especially when you see so many people claiming to have success with this. I don't think it's the fact that they're lying. I think that perhaps they're just trying this method out on ovens that aren't that dirty. Superficially they look quite dirty, but they haven't got that, months and months and years of hard baked grease on. Option number 2, if you're still keen to find a more gentle option, there's a couple of products I found that are quite handy. I've got this Astonish product here and also this cleaner, which is the Dirt Busters Bio Oven Cleaner. So both of these are less toxic than some of the other commercially available products, and they're quite gentle to use. You don't necessarily need all of the PPE and gloves to use them. They smell quite nice, they're not giving off any really potent fumes, but hey, what's the catch? That they perhaps don't work as well? Well, actually this one I have to say I really like. It comes with this handy scourer and it's like a cream, and you basically just work the cream around the oven and work away with that, and it's quite nice. It does start to degrease your oven. This one you actually apply when the oven's still slightly warm, similar kind of idea, and it starts to break down the grease. We tried both of these options out. They are actually really pleasant to use. I have to give them a big tick there, and they did go some way towards removing that grease, but once again, when you've got a really, really hard oven with hard baked grease like our one, actually it just wasn't enough to really cut through that. So next on the list is to move up the ladder to the slightly tougher chemicals. Now, I know that some people try to avoid using these in your home, but when you're tackling a job like a really, really dirty oven, hopefully it's not going to be that dirty that often. So as a one-off, I think it is really worth looking at these, especially given how difficult it is to get the oven clean using the other methods. So we've selected the Mr. Muscle Oven Cleaner. We gave that a go, and we also used the Oven Pride Deep Cleaner. Now, these are quite corrosive, and I think that's why people like to avoid them. But actually, if you're sensible and you use some PPE and you make sure you've got the area well ventilated when you use them, you can use them quite safely. So first of all, we tried out the spray, and it's as simple as just spraying this around the oven, and then you leave it to work and then you wipe it clean. And the second one we tried, the Oven Pride, what we used this for was to actually clean the oven racks, because you just put them into these bags, leave those, and they do the job for you. So that in itself is really, really simple. But also at the end of it, you have some excess liquid, and it suggests putting that in the bottom of your oven, because that can then get to work on that stubborn grease that sits in the bottom of your oven. So the Mr. Muscle product was actually pretty good in that it worked really, really quickly. We just had to spray this around the oven cavity, leave it for half an hour, and it was actually so easy to use that we started to see the dirt move away with just a damp cloth afterwards. So that did a pretty good job, but it didn't get rid of all of the dirt, which is where we then used the Oven Pride product. We left this overnight in the oven and then came away, and we needed to scrub a little bit more the next day because there was quite thick dirt still to get rid of, but we managed to remove the rest of it with that. And in terms of the mess it made, the elbow grease and the time it took, actually this was pretty incredible. If we hadn't had quite so much dirt, I think we would have done the job completely with this, but just because we had that really thick layer, we had to come in and use that as well. And they were just so much a joy to use really in comparison to the other products. So I'm not an advocate for always going for the harshest chemicals, but I think in this situation when it's a job that you're not going to be doing all the time, because hopefully you won't let it get that dirty again, it is actually worth investing in these and bringing these in to do that heavy work and heavy lifting for you. Of course, if you don't fancy doing that yourself, another option is to get a professional oven cleaner in. And the one thing I would say about that is when I looked into it, it was actually a lot cheaper than I expected. So it may be the case that you want to save yourself the hassle and just get someone else in to do the job for you, especially if it's a one-off big clean for a really filthy oven. Perhaps you've just moved into a new place, or you've just bought a new house or something. So, all in all, the conclusion is sometimes you just really got to go for the tough stuff. But if you clean your oven regularly, hopefully you'll avoid getting to that situation in the first place. In which case, I would definitely recommend this. This was really good to use, and it definitely does do the job to an extent. I wouldn't bother with the baking soda myself personally at all, because I just think it's too messy and doesn't do a good enough job for the effort involved, especially when there's a fairly good non-toxic alternative. And one other thing to say is that if you have got a self-cleaning oven, then actually you should be very careful about cleaning it manually anyway, because you can void the warranty. We actually are lucky enough to have a self-cleaning oven at home, which is fantastic, and I would highly recommend it, and I will link the video down below to how we got on with that. Oh, one other thing that it is worth noting is after we cleaned this oven and got it back to its almost new condition, the owners said that suddenly they noticed that their food tasted much better. So it's not a myth, having a dirty oven does actually affect the flavours of your food, and noticeably so, particularly when you let your oven get that dirty. So that's a big incentive to get your oven clean if ever there was one. If you've got a big meal or something, or you're doing some entertaining, you really want to impress your guests, then get your oven clean. That's all for today. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that this video is useful to you, and perhaps it saves you a bit of elbow grease if you're about to tackle the job yourself. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.